When a police dog sniffed a shipping container and alerted the customs officers, they approached carefully without knowing what they would find inside. When they opened the door, a terrible smell came out, indicating something bad had happened inside. The police dog patrolled the ports of Shenzhen, China, doing his job diligently. However, he didn't understand the importance of preventing illegal things like contraband and weapons from entering the country. For him, it was just a fun activity, and he got treats for it. The officers had to check more than 15 containers that didn't have the right papers. It was a tough task, and the smugglers knew it. They hoped to sneak their illegal goods past the officers in the chaos of checking so many containers. But if they knew how skilled the officers were, they might have reconsidered their plan. A group of 3 men, part of the anti-smuggling team, quickly headed to inspect the first container after receiving the message. They were professional and experienced, having caught many smuggled items in the past week. The first 3 containers they checked turned out to be innocent, carrying toys and phone cases. It seemed like the shippers had made honest mistakes in the paperwork, which can happen at such a busy port. As the customs officials checked each container, they found that the first 3 were safe, just as one of them had predicted. However, the 4th container became a time-consuming mystery that would occupy their attention for several months. In the end, it would become a major global news story involving the customs officials and an international crime syndicate. Approaching the container labeled number 5702, they noticed something suspicious. The place of origin listed 3 different ports, with one of them crossed out. This raised their suspicions, but everything else seemed fine, and the container appeared to be in good condition. Smugglers usually used old containers to avoid detection, so one official signaled that he didn't suspect anything. They had many more containers to check, and they wanted to move on quickly. However, the police dog behaved differently. It sat down right in front of the container and refused to move, fixated on it with its tongue out. The official tried to get the dog to move, but it was clear that the canine had detected something significant. The dog's sitting position was a clear signal that it had successfully recognized specific odors it had been trained to identify. The customs officials sensed that something was hidden in the container, but they weren't sure exactly what it was. Police dogs sometimes make mistakes, giving false alarms when they smell strong scents of food or meat. Still, they decided to open the container, just to satisfy the dog's alert. Using bolt cutters, one of the officials struggled to pry open the rusty red doors. When they finally swung open, they found bags filled with strange, light, coal-like material. The substance left black stains on their skin when touched, like charcoal. However, as soon as they opened one bag, a terrible smell overwhelmed them, making them cough and struggle to breathe. Even the police dog was momentarily disoriented by the odor. Officials sensed something unusual and possibly dangerous, so they called in health inspectors for help. The area was secured, and a thorough investigation began. The unfamiliar smell indicated they were dealing with something significant, starting a historical investigation. This was unlike anything they had encountered before. It turned out to be more than just an illegal item. It was a unique living creature. The animal had traveled over 7,000 miles from an African forest. A man in Africa, desperate to escape poverty, had been on a determined quest to catch this elusive creature for days. Using clues from nature, like stripped tree bark and ant nests with claw marks, the man finally spotted the animal. He set up traps and successfully caught 5 of these elusive creatures. When morning came, the man approached the net and carefully examined the animals. They were curled up, trying to protect themselves, but he could see their unique features. They had tails that stretched along their bodies, blending into their backs, which had thick and rounded guards. Their claws were tiny, even smaller than cats, but what made them valuable were the scales covering their skin. These animals were in high demand because of their unique appearance. The man who caught them planned to sell them to a local dealer, a small player in a larger poaching network. The money he could make from selling them was significant. Unfortunately, the animals' fate was grim. They would be killed, their scales removed, and shipped to China. But this time, customs officials, with their police dog's help, intercepted the shipment. It was a historic moment for the country, and the police credited their canine companion for the success. Inside the container, they found something shocking: thousands upon thousands of pangolin scales. These scales belong to a species that has become the most trafficked animal in the world, despite being highly illegal due to its endangered status. Pangolins are protected by both national and international laws, with 2 of their species being classified as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. In China, pangolins are protected, and consuming them is illegal, punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Despite no scientific evidence, pangolin scales are used in traditional medicine for various purposes, leading to a surge in demand. However, the effectiveness of these practices remains uncertain due to the lack of solid scientific proof. Because of the high demand for pangolin scales, traffickers have become bolder in their tactics. They bribe officials and conduct their illegal activities openly. These pangolin syndicates have become some of the most powerful criminal groups in the country. Although large quantities of pangolin scales have been seized before, the amount found in this case was unprecedented for port officials. When the 293 bags of pangolin scales were weighed, they totaled almost 12 tons, meaning they came from around 20,000 to 30,000 pangolins. This suggests that the poachers responsible for the shipment might be pushing the animal toward extinction. The seizure of the container became a crucial turning point in the authorities' investigation. They were closing in on a trafficking syndicate that operated from Africa to China, where most of their customers were. Illegal pangolin trade often starts in Africa, where 4 of the 8 pangolin species are found. However, the real masterminds of this case were based in China. The customs team faced a daunting task in their months-long investigation, as the syndicate had been operating for a long time without repercussions, amassing a huge amount of money. The latest container alone was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Though this was a lot of money, it was not worth the loss of 30,000 pangolins. The investigators faced significant challenges in tracking down the criminals behind this horrific mass killing. They had limited resources and only fake names on shipping forms as evidence. With hope resting on the label attached to the crate, they sought the help of a specialized team to dismantle smuggling operations. Expert analysis revealed that the pangolin scales came from Africa, narrowing down the pool of potential suspects. After poring over hundreds of documents and conducting field visits, they finally apprehended 2 individuals, He and Li, who emerged as prime suspects. This breakthrough was a significant victory, bringing them closer to protecting pangolins. Li, an experienced smuggler who had managed to avoid getting caught for years, firmly denied any involvement with the pangolin scales. Even when incriminating photos were found on his cell phone, he insisted that he bought the phone secondhand and the pictures weren't his. The investigators had strong evidence pointing to Li, but they couldn't arrest him because of his alibi. If Li could prove that he bought the phone from someone else, they wouldn't be able to hold him in custody without more direct evidence linking him to the crime. Still, the investigators were determined not to give up easily. They had made significant progress and were almost certain of Li's guilt. Luckily for them, Li unknowingly left a vital clue in one of the scale photographs. His foot, which had a distinctive mole, was visible in the image. By carefully comparing the foot in the photograph with Li's actual foot, they obtained the conclusive evidence they needed to charge him. They were one step ahead of the criminal in this case. Further investigation revealed that Li and He, another individual, had been partners in numerous profitable deals, amassing a staggering $758,000. It was also discovered that both criminals had taken the same flight to the African country, from where the pangolin scales originated. Li handled shipping operations from Africa to China, while he sold pangolin scales and ensured customer satisfaction in China. Their arrest led to the exposure of a larger network of smugglers and criminals involving possibly hundreds of people. The investigators realized their work only scratched the surface of a bigger criminal operation. They aimed to protect pangolins and dismantle the network, bringing all involved criminals to justice. The investigation highlighted the urgent need to combat illegal wildlife trade and protect endangered species worldwide. Li and He were not acting alone. Their partnership was part of a larger puzzle with other criminals and smugglers. In a separate case, The Intermediate People's Court in China sentenced 17 individuals for smuggling 23 tons of pangolin scales worth millions from Nigeria. China has taken significant steps to protect wildlife, removing pangolin body parts from traditional medicine and elevating the protective status of pangolins. Enforcing strict laws and severe penalties is crucial to safeguard endangered species. Collective efforts are vital for the future of pangolins. Increased awareness, stronger laws, better enforcement, and sustainable practices can ensure their survival. We must protect these unique creatures.